But remember, prevention is the best solution. This campaign is brought to you by BFM 부산영어방송.
지금 방송 광고라는 부메랑을 던져보세요. 소비자를 향해 정확히 날아가는 광고. 힘차게 돌아가는 경제. 부메랑처럼 다시 기업의 이익으로 되돌아오니까요. 방송 광고, 경제에 큰 힘이 됩니다. 부산 방송광고발전협의회.
The time is now 7 o'clock.
It was so rainy yesterday. I hope that you're all doing well and the rain didn't dampen your children's day plans. As I was driving back from a funeral, it was way out in Checheon last night. I was thinking about the significance of all these days we mark on the calendar, whether it be Children's Day or Parents' Day, which is coming up real soon. And I got to thinking, do we really need all these days on the calendar to remind ourselves of the importance of our loved ones? I think it's because I went to a funeral and I was being very contemplative, thinking about life. Anyhow, should we be doing more to make every day count, as they say? I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Tuesday, May 6th on BEFM 부산영어방송. And yes, we are definitely live this morning. Good morning, everybody. All the wavers, the early birds that are here already. Welcome to the program. It is Tuesday. It's the last day of the long weekend, but you may be busier than usual because, oh my goodness, the first week of May is always a busy week for everybody if you're in Korea with Children's Day, and then we have a Buddha's birthday, and then Parents' Day. All happening in the same week, right? Now with the added economic pressure, some people are coming up with creative ways to reduce that burden. So there are multiple posts on secondhand platforms for Parents' Day carnations. Some are from florists advertising their products, but there are also people selling gently used baskets of fake flowers of those, those soap flowers. Yes? Well, a similar thing happened during graduation season earlier this year with bouquets and wreaths. So I guess it's a thing now. And the same was true for Children's Day gifts. But things a little different in this case as parents are looking for or selling those high demand toys or merchandise with a premium. They're adding a premium. So, think trading cards for popular animated monsters. Apparently, they're a hot commodity. So some people may feel a little odd buying gifts, from used platforms, right? But this is definitely a reflection of the economy and the people's desire maybe to shop smarter. So I do want your opinion on that. What do you think about this whole idea? If you knew that you got a gift from a used platform, would you be okay with it? Just asking. Very curious. And so let's get to our main text topic today. You probably have gone out with your family at some point during this very long weekend, or maybe you're going to go today. So it's really hard to satisfy every member of the family, especially if you have a large family like I do. What kind of restaurant or food item do you often go for when eating out with your family? Ooh, so it's foodie time. 자, 가정의 달 연휴에 가족들과 외식하신 분들 계실 텐데요. 자, 모두의 취향을 맞추는 거 너무 힘들지 않아요? 저희 가족, we have the process of elimination. always someone says, "Oh, 나 이거 먹기 싫어. Oh, 난 이거 싫어." So, we mark it off the list and we're left with like one or two, choices, basically. That's how we do it. 자, 그래서 부모님 가족과 자주 먹는 혹은 추천하는 외식 메뉴는 give me some good ideas because today I am not cooking. I put it out there. 오늘 요리 안 할 거예요. So maybe you can, through our Kakao Talk board or our chat board through YouTube, you can send in all the recommendations of food, restaurants. I can't necessarily give you the brand names. I'll give you hints though, and you can definitely join in on the chat. Yes. And 벌써 피디님 벌써 들어왔네요. 엄마 아빠가 사주면 다 굿. For me, 저 요리만 안 하면 다 맛있어요. As long as I don't make it, 왜 이렇게 맛있죠? So, like I said, we are streaming live right now on YouTube. So go to the YouTube platform, type in BEFM 부산영어방송 to find us. And you can subscribe, log in, and chat with our other waivers out there. On your phone, pound 9050 shop 9050. That's going to cost you 101. You can also reach me for free on Kakao Talk. And the good thing is you can send in photos. Yay. And if you do send in photos, you're giving us implicit permission that it's okay to post your photos. And the ways you can listen to our program, 90.5 or 103.3 FM on the radio if you're in Busan. And yes, like I said, we're streaming live on YouTube right now. You can watch again on the same platform. We have two apps that you can download. The BEFM app itself, you can listen to the Papal app as well for our wa글와글 segment. Now, let's look ahead to our Tuesday morning. I almost forgot what day it was. We have Andrew, who is coming in for Wave Sports. That's a new name. We have Bonnie with Simply Sustainable. For our special interview, I did allude to this yesterday. So today we're going to focus on children's mental health with all of that pressure from education. We've talked about the 7세 고시, the 4세 고시. I mean, what are we doing to our children? And I know many of you are not doing that, but I mean, really as a society, what are we doing to the children? Let's find out more about all the societal pressure that we may be putting on our children. That's coming up in hour number 2, and I'll be back with news overview. It's now 7:06. This is News Overview. PPP sees rift with Kim Moon-soo over candidacy merger with Han Duck-soo. People Power Party, or PPP, during a general conference of its lawmakers last night, called for a candidate merger as Kim and the party have clashed over the extent of power the presidential candidate has over party affairs. DP urges court to postpone Lee Jae-myung's trial until after presidential election. The opposition Democratic Party, or DP, yesterday called on the Seoul High Court to push back the remanded trial of its presidential candidate, Lee Jae-myung, until after the June 3rd election, as it vowed to use all of its powers to prevent what it called a judiciary coup. Government says med schools to finalize expulsion of medical students. Acting President and Education Minister Lee Ju-ho said all medical schools will finalize which students will repeat a year or will be expelled by next Wednesday. Construction production dips by most in over 26 years. South Korea's production in the construction sector declined by 20.7% in the first quarter of this year, the most in more than 26 years, amid industry slumps and political uncertainty. Israel's Security Cabinet approves plan to capture Gaza. Israel's Security Cabinet has approved a plan to expand its military offensive against Hamas, which includes the capture of Gaza and the holding of its territory to destroy Hamas and rescue the remaining hostages. This was News Overview. It's time for us to check in with Sejin for now in Busan. Good morning.
Morning.
Yay. So before we get into Now in Busan, our text topic today, what is like your go-to favorite food places or like what's on the menu when you and your family get together?
We would normally go for a buffet because we can all like meet all desires.
That's true.
Yeah. But for me personally, I prefer like quality dish rather than quantity dish.
Yes, yes.
But my older brother, my younger brother and my uncle always eat like a horse. So like I cannot help but follow their choice because for me, I don't have a big craving, but they always have big craving, and yeah, we always tend to
end up at a
their
buffet.
desires. Yeah.
I see, because I guess you can kind of pick and choose what type of food, right?
For me, it's not cost effective. My mother and my older sister and me is not fit for this.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I fully understand because like when our family, we rarely go to buffet, but when we do, it's kind of like, I starve the kids all day. I feel like I want to get our money's worth, and then they end up not eating that much, right? So I was just like, why go, right? But I fully understand. All right, let's jump into our local news with Now in Busan. So our first news, I hear this is about jellyfish. So what is this about?
Over the past few years, with the sea getting warmer, jellyfish have been showing up earlier and in bigger numbers. And that's been causing a real issues for both local fishers and people trying to enjoy a swim.
So what's being done?
Suyeonggu announced they will be installing jellyfish blocking net at Gwangali Beach offshore for the very first time in summer. It will go up about 100 meters out, and they were planning to keep it in place from June to September. They're putting in about 55 million won, and is to make sure swimmers are safe.
Okay, so that's at Gwangali, but what about the other beaches?
Haeundae is also setting up, but they are also sending out boats to patrol the waters. One boat for Haeundae and 3 to 5 boats for Songjeong Beach,
Yes.
which tends to see more jellyfish.
Okay.
Over at Songdo Beach, the local fishing community will be sending out and helping out starting in July, using their boats to scoop up jellyfish before they get too close to shore.
Right, so this didn't really come out of nowhere. We've been seeing the rise, right?
Right, rising sea temperature have caused a spike in jellyfish populations across the country, according to National Institute of Fisheries Science. One of the biggest troublemakers is the Nomura jellyfish. Last year, it showed up in the largest numbers since 2015. And the moon jellyfish triggers warnings earlier than usual, about a month ahead of the schedule. And people are actually getting stung. Back in 2017,
Yes.
there were fewer than 900 cases nationwide, but last year, over 4,200. And in Busan and Gwangali, Haeundae, and Songjeong beaches, sting cases jumped from 278 in 2022 to 853 last year.
Indeed. So that has gone up, the numbers. So that's why they're putting up all these nets and whatnot. So hopefully we can be safe out there. All right, next, I hear that there is a rather unique photo opportunity coming up for couples here in Busan.
Yes, Kat. Busan's Nakdong S3 Eco Center is inviting 25 engaged or newly married couples to take special wedding photos with a very special backdrop, a pair of whooper swans, 큰고니 in Korean.
Wow, swan. So we have a photo. Oh, really? This is in the backdrop? That's going to be really nice. Sounds kind of poetic.
Yeah, whooper swans aren't just graceful birds with long necks and snow-white feathers.
Yes.
They're also known for the way they mate for life. They travel together across continent, flying thousands of kilometers during migration. And once they've chosen a partner, they've typically stayed together for life. So this event is about celebrating this kind of love, strong, loyal, and lasting, and sharing a message about the importance of both marriage and conservation.
Oh, wait. So, this hasn't happened. So, I hear that you made this?
I asked ChatGPT to...
Oh, our best friend to make this?
Yeah.
So this is what it might look like? Yeah. Oh, interesting. I don't know. I'd be kind of scared. They're kind of 너무 크지 않아요? They're kind of big.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, but I get it. So where will the photos be taken?
The shoot will take place in the center's substitute habitat for water birds, one of the most picture-cute spots on site.
Right.
It was set up in 2013 to care for swans that couldn't return to the wild after treatment. And at the moment, there are 6 swans living there and a few that were brought in from Everland Zoo.
I see. So how can couples get involved in this?
The photo sessions will be held on weekday afternoons throughout May between 3 and 5 p.m. It's open to the first 25 couples who sign up on a first-come, first-served basis.
Yes.
And they'll need to bring their own camera or kit. And details are up on the Echo Center's website, and bookings are being taken by phone.
I see. A very meaningful way to capture a moment, right? By the way, for people who are wondering, some people are saying, is that 서진? No, that is not 서진 in the photo. 아니, 누가 물어봤어요. 아니에요. Just, no, it's not. So we're going to move on to our next item. I hear Busan's getting ready to host quite a major event for the manufacturing world, right?
Yes, so starting on the 20th of this month, the 12th of Busan International Machinery Fair will be held over 4 days and at Mexico in Haeundae. And this year's theme is Smart Manufacturing, Dreaming of Future Innovation.
So it sounds like it's going to be a big one.
Yes, it's the biggest edition.
Yes.
536 companies from 31 countries with nearly 2,000 booths set up to show the latest in the machinery. This year, they've added 3 special zones to the expo.
Yes.
There's one about AI-powered autonomous manufacturing, another focused on digital molding, tech, and a third that highlights how Busan's traditional manufacturing industries are embracing innovation.
Nice. So anything else that we should know?
Yes, there's also global export consultation event co-hosted with KOTRA, which is 대한무역투자진흥공사. Buyers from 13 countries, including Spain, India, and Qatar, will sit down for one-on-one meetings with exhibitors, exploring new deals and fresh partnerships and global opportunities.
I see. So once again, that's going on at Bexco. And moving on to our final story. I hear that there's something quite creative happening right in central Busan, right?
The Busan Design Promotion Agency has opened a pop-up shop at the Busan brand shop in Junggu. And it'll be running till the end of June.
So what's this one about?
It's called Wearing the Busan City brand and it's a project between a local fashion label called Oseawase and 8 artists from right here in Busan. They've put together a range of t-shirts with original designs, each one showing a bit of city's character and creative energy.
Sure.
You can actually get involved. There's a little customization corner where you pick out a heat transfer sticker designed with Busan branding. And they will press it onto the t-shirt for you on the spot.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. I like that. I wonder if they can make something like Morning Wave in Busan. That'd be 우리 merchandise, PD님, anything else happening during the event?
Every week during the exhibition, one of the featured artists will be invited to the shop for a casual meet and greet session with visitors.
Yes. Well, thank you for going over all the Busan updates. And of course, we'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Sejin.
Always welcome.
Everybody, this was Sejin once again. We're going to take a short song break right around now. This is That's Why by Baekyerin.
Slowly, and the weather was cloudy. I feel so empty suddenly. It's in my mood perfectly. It's nobody's fault to know, but I have to blame it on you. But you would deny it, that you always making me can't fight with your gravity, and never ready for this. That's why I found why I got all those feelings, a lot of sadness. Always you let me alone, yeah, but you're still there in my heart. You know, you should know why I cry, why I cry. 'cause as time goes by, even now you're breathing in me, even now you're breathing in me. That's why I found why I got all those feelings, a lot of cynics. Always you left me alone here, but you're still there in my heart. You know, you should know why I cry, why I cry, why I
It's time for your traffic and weather. And guess what? Here, at least locally, the roads are fairly clear at the moment because it is a public holiday. Currently, it is 13 degrees Celsius under cloudy skies here in Busan. The daytime high will go up to 18 degrees. There is rain forecast once again in the afternoon. Across the country, there's rain or clouds at the very least, but definitely rain on the final leg of this long weekend. Daytime highs will go up to 15 to 21 degrees Celsius with big temperature differences between the morning low and the daytime high. This was your weather report. It's time for top stories. We have Haley in the studio. Good morning, Haley.
Good morning, twin.
Apparently,
Reverse
you got
twin.
the memo.
We're on the same. And again, we do not talk about what we're going to wear, which maybe
Look
we
at Andrew
should.
giving us the look like, what is going on?
Thanks. Go home and change. Go get into your jean jacket and stripes. Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Oh, God. You just gave us like, oh, yes. No. And the thing is, like, when Haley walked into the studio this morning, I was here first and I looked up and I was just like,
She
no.
gave me a look, and I was like, "That's not a way to greet a friend." And she was like,
I gave her a
she's
dirty look.
basically
I was like,
ugh. I'm like, I've only been back 2 days. Like, I already got an ugh.
네, 맞아요.
예.
TV 제리님 우리 커플룩이에요.
그렇습니다. 아유, 정말.
So we got to talk about food. We're foodies.
Yes.
So what have you enjoyed? I know you haven't been back that long from Germany. I saw it yesterday on social media.
Right.
Oh, the 회.
Because
Oh.
I've been craving something light, spicy, and raw.
Ooh.
So yesterday, my family got into a whole discussion about we're sitting at a cafe, like we should eat out because it's Children's Day,
Yeah.
and none of us are children, but we should eat out,
Right.
but avoid all the family-friendly places.
Yeah.
So we had a whole discussion because my mom was like, "Should we have 아구? It's not 아구찜, but it's 아구 불고기." So it's grilled monkfish, but it has more of a like 불맛, this really spicy sauce to it. My dad nixed it. He's like, ugh, no, we had that like a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
And then he was like, should we have like galbi? And my mom nixed that. And I was like,
You're getting my hopes up.
I
and then,
know.
Okay.
I'm like, you people are
Yes.
so. But then we're also very anti-buffet
Yeah.
because we're
Yeah.
not. We just don't eat the money's worth.
Exactly.
I mean, just after a certain age, like your stomach just kind of shrinks. and
How do you
it's-
say like 본전 뽑다? Like we never do that.
get our money's
Right,
worth. So
yes.
we settled on 회. So yeah, that was good.
Oh, 우리
So good.
피디님 왜요?
젊어서 그래요. She's like, I
She's
love
still young.
buffets. I'm like, yeah, that's because you have a 2 in front of your age.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you ended up with raw fish.
Raw fish, yeah. That was a great
Good choice. Good choice. All right. So let's jump into this story. You know, the wildfires in Daegu last month really has raised concerns about the risks of these near city wildfires.
Right. And I have to say, we're not loving the weather and the rain over the long weekend, but at least it does dispel concerns about any potential wildfires. But of course, still be careful. So we're going to talk about these urban wildfires.
Sure.
도심형 산불. They're becoming bigger concerns. In the U.S., they're called WUI fires, wildland and urban interface fire.
Okay.
But because of real estate trends, housing trends in South Korea, more apartments are now being built near mountains and forests. This
Right.
kind of 숲세권 phenomenon.
Sure.
And of course, we then have the underlying issues of climate change, which make wildfires more common. So according to Korea Forest Service report this year, it also noted that urban wildfires are becoming more frequent, and it named major cities, including Seoul, Incheon, Busan, Daejeon, and Daegu as areas of concern. So basically, almost any and all metropolitan cities.
Yes.
But then if you kind of take it back and think about the geography of the Korean Peninsula, most large cities, or basically anywhere and everywhere, we have mountains within them or
That's true.
around them. Busan City has 7 mountains inside. So then these include fires that happen within the city and then spread to the nearby forest, or vice versa. Start in the forest as forest fires and then travel into the city or have a risk of traveling into the city, which was the latest Daegu fire.
Okay.
They're having, in terms of specific numbers, 36 cases on average per year where building fires spread to nearby forests. Right, so that's where we are. But then here's the thing about urban fires. They're usually chemical or industrial in nature.
Yes.
But then that requires prevention of toxic gases as well as putting out the fire. But then you look at forest fires where speed and is more of the urgency and you don't really have to worry about the toxic chemicals. So how they're dealt with, that's different as well.
Okay.
So experts call for fundamental measures, including building construction permission, where buildings should be built at least 30 to 50 meters away from forests, and also using fire retardant materials.
Sure.
For residents, we of course need to take caution, including not keeping flammable materials around your home, also getting rid of litter or leaves inside sewer specifically.
Yes.
There's also concerns about the response system, because right now regular fires, so kind of city fires, are dealt with by the fire agency, 소방청, but then wildfires are in the realm of forest services.
Yes.
So this dual system kind of causes confusion.
Indeed. I wish there was just one system.
Right,
Right. It would make it easier, at least for like citizens, even residents to report on. But anyhow, that's where we are. So thanks for giving us an update and a reminder for us to be careful once again. Well, this goes in line with the top story. The cost of like living and prices, prices are everything has gone up, right? Usually when things get, tighter, the budget, people cut back on eating out, right? And cook more at home, but apparently maybe not. No?
Right. But that also doesn't mean people are eating out more. So are we just eating less? Exactly. Has it gotten that bad? So there's an unprecedented phenomenon right now of there being decreases in people buying ingredients and also decreases in eating out. And that's been happening for 2 years running. In Korean, 식재료 구매와 외식이 둘 다 줄어들고 있습니다. But usually, you have to eat no matter what. That's
Right.
the basic necessity. So usually you see one go up as the other goes down.
Yes.
The typical pattern was very clear if you think back to the peak COVID year, 2020, when the restaurant outings decreased because we were under social distancing.
Right.
So specifically, restaurant spending went down by 16%, but ingredient purchases, 식재료 구매, spiked by almost 5%. That was the biggest in 13 years.
Right.
So to have both ingredient purchases and eating out go down simultaneously, it's something that's never happened since record-taking began back in 2006.
Big question is why? Why is this happening?
We can only assume people just don't have money. So for eating out, initially this decrease was due to increase in deliveries. Instead
Right.
of going out, people just call things in. But delivery numbers have been going down too. So it's prices. Fresh produce, 농산물. The prices there have been going up since 2023 due to climate change, weather issues. And then again from the high currency, which impacted imported goods, imported food.
Sure.
And then overall, because of the stagnant economy, people just have less disposable income to spend.
Yes.
So the middle class, which we're talking about the top 40 to 60% of income earners, they have seen their disposable income actually decrease for 3 consecutive quarters.
I see. Despite these tough times, though, there is one group which apparently has like the big spenders.
Right. So when we usually talked about like spending and big consumer groups like advertisers targeting. We're usually talking about like people in their 30s, 40s, kind of the waist, the core of the economy. But now that's going up. Seniors, the top 20% of earners in the 60 and above population. So this is according to one domestic credit card big data analysis, and they're calling them active seniors who are keeping their spending up despite the economy. And what's notable is that they're very youthful. So their number one spending category, online shopping.
Really?
They're going online, which is, of course, not a popular retail outlet for others in their age group.
Yes.
They're also using money to take care of their appearances, literally to look more youthful.
I love that, though.
So we're talking about double to triple spending compared to other seniors at hair salons, plastic surgeons, dermatologists, so 피부과, and skincare, like massages, facials, and also keeping with the trends, spending considerable amount on streaming platforms or OTT platforms.
This is like so outside the realm of what we're used to hearing about like older people. I mean, we're all going to get there someday, but I'm just saying, right?
Yeah, so they're cooler than I am.
Apparently. They're spending more on themselves, pampering. So, okay, while we're on the topic of consumption, deliveries have become the most preferred way of apparently buying things, right?
Right. We're not talking about food deliveries, but 택배, parcel deliveries. So there were almost 6 billion parcel deliveries in South Korea last year.
How many were you responsible for?
Probably like 1 million. So this is according to the Land Ministry and the Korea Integrated Logistics Association. They tentatively put last year's total parcel deliveries at 5.96 billion, an over 15% increase from the year before, and compared to 6 years ago, 114%.
Yes.
So the threshold was, again, going back to COVID in 2020 when we just kept getting stuff delivered. And that's been, the figure has been growing at about 20% each year since then.
Yes.
So by the way, if you're talking about individuals, an average person has 115 parcel deliveries per year. So yeah,
so I'm like doing the math in my head.
Yeah, like every 3 days.
Every 3 days
almost.
you're getting one?
Right. So those in the industry say that recently the launch of these Chinese e-commerce platforms, as they have helped to raise these figures hugely. And also market competition that's helped to bring in policies like free returns, exchanges, same-day deliveries, or early morning deliveries, which really helps with these numbers.
Yes.
So going back to the economy, a lot of person-to-person deliveries from secondhand exchanges too, from used platforms.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's what's going on. It's so interesting to hear about people's spending patterns and kind of to see, to measure, where am I on this, spectrum?
115.
We're just going to leave it at And for a final story, films are apparently the latest targets in Trump's tariffs.
Right, so we're going to talk about tariffs. Donald Trump, U.S. President Donald Trump, announced 100% tariff, or tentatively, no details yet, on all movies produced in foreign lands, so outside of the U.S.
Yes.
So he wrote on Truth Social yesterday that he has authorized the Department of Commerce and the U.S. Trade Representative to immediately begin instituting this tariff, although, again, the White House said the details are not clear. They've not been set.
Yes. So what's the reason behind levying these foreign-made films?
Right. So according to Trump, that's because the U.S. film industry, aka Hollywood, is dying. And dying fast. Those are his words. That different countries, they are providing all kinds of incentives. And in Trump's views, they're chasing out the American film producers and studios and hitting Hollywood and other American regions hard. And he actually expanded this argument to national security, as that's been kind of his underlying reasoning for all the tariffs, saying that a decline of the American film industry is a threat to national security.
Yes.
But it's not clear whether this will be welcomed by the film industry, even Hollywood, because they've already been affected by the tariffs, as China announced that it's reducing the quota of American movies into their country. So they're actually cutting back on how many Hollywood films can be screen.
Sure.
And that's kind of in retaliation of the tariffs. And then recently, it's been a trend because a lot of countries are offering tax incentives. Major movies recently produced by U.S. studios have been shot outside the U.S., including Deadpool and Wolverine, Wicked and Gladiator 2, and even Mission Impossible was shot overseas.
Right.
By the way, while we're on the topic of tariffs, real quick, a little bit of breaking news. President Trump signed an executive order to incentivize drug manufacturing in in the United States and said he will announce a pharmaceuticals tariff, 의약품 관세, in the next 2 weeks.
So it continues.
They just keep on coming.
Okay, well, we're going to report on them as they come. Thank you for all the news, and of course, we'll check in with you in hour number 2.
See
Bye,
you in a
twin.
bit. Bye.
This is Haley. We're going to get to a song break. This is Love Never Felt So Good by Michael Jackson and Justin Timberlake.
Dance. Let me see you move. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Dance. Let me see you move.
Love never felt so good. And I died if it ever could. Not like you hold me, oh baby. Love never felt so fine. And I died above mine. Not like you hold me. And the night is gonna be just fine. Gotta fly, gotta see, believe I can take it. 'Cause baby, every time I love you, in on my line, in on baby. Tell me if you really love me, in on my line, in on baby. Baby, 'cause love never felt so good.
Baby, love never felt so fine. And I doubt if it was ever mine. Not like you hold me, hold me. Ooh, baby, love never felt so good. And I doubt if it ever could. Not like you hold me, hold me. And the night through the thick and thin.
Gotta fly, gotta see, believe I can take it. 'Cause baby, every time I love you, it's in on the line, in on baby. Tell me if you really love me, it's in on the line, in on baby. Baby, love never felt so good.
Bring it down. Dance. Let me see you move. Come on. Let me see you move. Dance. Let me see you move. Come on. Let me see you move. Michael.
And the nights that is good. Gotta fly, gotta see, believe I can take it. 'Cause baby, every time I love you, it's in on the line, in on baby. Tell me if you really love me, it's in on the line. Try to be crazy, baby. Love never felt so good. Every time I love you, it's in on the line, in on baby. Tell me if you really love me, it's in on the line. Try to be crazy, 'cause baby, love never felt so good. Say all you never felt so good. Yeah, so no, it never felt so good. Never felt so good. Never felt so good. Never felt so good. All right, that's fine.
Hey, you didn't get the memo?
What's going on?
Denim with stripes today?
I left my Canadian tuxedo at home. You could have. Hey, if you would have filled me in, I would have brought the whole shebang.
You didn't get the message we sent through you.
Yeah, well, I think, but you've taken it to a whole new level. You took Canadian tuxedo to the country club with your cardigan.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, pullover? No, it's a cardigan.
No, it's a sweater.
But yeah, no, sorry. I didn't get that.
Right. Haley says you can't sit with us.
Yeah. Haley didn't want to in the first place.
Oh.
No, not with her.
Do you remember that term? What did we say back in the day? Like moded.
No.
You don't remember
No.
that? Leslie, help me out. Yeah. Leslie. We're
It's like
the same
talk
generation.
to the hand. Talk to the
Talk to the
hand.
hand, I
Yeah,
remember that,
okay.
All right. So, text topic today.
Losing it.
So, text topic.
Sure.
You have two sons.
Yeah.
Very cute. Okay.
All right.
Thank goodness they take after your wife.
Yeah,
But
okay.
so when they choose, Dad, let's go eat out. Like,
Yeah.
do you guys all agree on where to go?
No, I mean, it's usually the thing is if I'm out with the boys, we'll end up getting something maybe they don't usually eat when they're with mom, which might be a blah 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 meal that contains a toy. Something like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
they're still at that age that they're okay with it.
Of course.
Or something easy or quick like jajangmyeon or something like that. But if we're going out as a family,
Yeah,
it's
like nice.
typically nice does not happen. Typically,
where'd it
I don't know, like chicken or something like that.
Chicken.
Yeah, just easy.
But do you guys? I mean, there's so many chicken places. We can't even agree on
We
which
go to the
chicken
same
place.
one all the
Oh, the
time.
same one. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
usually.
At least you have a go-to place.
Yeah, because the reason is because this chicken place also has like some bokkeumbap and a few other items as well that the kids actually really like. So it just makes it easier.
Does it begin with a K and end with an N?
Yeah, that's the one.
I know which one.
Yeah.
Okay.
With
We're
some red sauce.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah. All
So
right.
we're gonna jump into our first bit of sports for Wave Sports. What do you have?
We're gonna get to some LPGA action right now.
Yes.
And Hae-ran dominated and gets her third LPGA title in Utah. So, yeah, another dominant performance on the LPGA tour. And we were just talking, I guess maybe it was last week or the week before, that, it's not the last we're going to hear about. I think it was Kim Hyo-joo tying for second in that major. And, you had said it's not the last we're going to hear of any Koreans over the season. It didn't take very long for South Korea's Hae-ran to deliver a commanding performance in the inaugural Black Desert Championship in Ivines? Oh, Utah. Sorry. Anybody from Utah, give us a heads up on the pronunciation there. Securing her third LPGA Tour title, wire-to-wire fashion. Now, this is one that I feel she is not in the limelight like a lot of the other Koreans on the tour, whereas she has a very cute demeanor. She's smiley. She's just kind of go with the flow.
Right.
And I don't know, like I think she sneaks up on people because maybe they don't see that competitive nature in her where you get from maybe Ko Jin-young or
But sometimes a
Kim Hyo-joo.
smile, that can be your armor. I think.
100%.
Right?
Or it's like, hey, you're going down.
I know,
Yeah.
but inside you're like, I'm gonna win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was really, really nice to see her get her third win on tour. Now, it makes a strong comeback for Ryu, who rebounded after losing a 54-hole lead at last week's Chevron Championship. With this win, Ryu joins Kim Lim and Kim Hyo-joo as the third South Korean champion on the tour this season. So, yeah, I mean, last week she was, after 3 rounds, she was in the lead.
Yes.
And then I don't want to say fell apart, but at a major, if you aren't able to, finish it off, it is kind of falling apart in the end. But she, put a lot of the haters to bed, if you want to say, the naysayers, and saying, hey, listen, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. And, hopefully this is more things to come from her.
Yay. So
Yes.
congrats to her. Well, do we have a good, happy update on the Lotte Giants?
It's a yes and a no kind of answer. For anyone
mixed bag.
who's listening
Okay.
on the radio and not on NoTube, Kat's face kind of just said it all. All
I went
right?
for a smiley to like,
Yeah. So for our Lotte Giants update, I still think it's good. I think it's good and it can turn
Yes.
around. So an absolutely roller coaster of a week for the Lotte Giants is how I'd like to put it. Now, they took all 3 games last week up in Seoul against the Kiom Heroes, which I think most people assumed they would, but as we know, if you assume in the KBO, you're probably going to be wrong because it's every week it's something different. But then they returned back to Sagitt to take on NC for the weekend series leading into the holiday. On Friday night, they kept things going, and it was 4 in a row for Lotte. They're up in second place, and you're like, whoa, this is nice. This is a great feeling.
But you knew it wasn't going to last.
Then on Saturday,
You knew.
On Saturday, it was not to be. I think it was 13 or 14 that they let it go across the plate. It was not very good. Sunday wasn't much different for the Lotte Giants, so they had lost back-to-back games against NC.
So where are we? What place?
Hold on, because they played on Monday.
Oh, they did?
Yeah,
Okay.
because of Children's Day. Children's Day is usually like the biggest day of the year.
So they played
for the
yesterday.
KBO. Yeah, they did play yesterday. And they did have, across the KBO yesterday, there were 4 sellouts. The only game that didn't sell out was the TUES against NC. Like, Suwon, what's going on? I don't understand. How didn't you sell out? And it wasn't even, they were like lower than 6,000 seats.
What's going on there?
Yeah, I don't know. So every other stadium was sold out.
Yes.
But they did welcome in SSG for the Children's Day game. And it just, what happened here was SSG got out to, I think it was 3-0 in the first inning, and they weren't able to rebound. And it was, there was no real defensive errors. The bats just weren't hot throughout the weekend. Even though they lost those 2 games against NC, the bats were hot. Reyes continues to smash the ball all over the park, and I think that with that loss yesterday, hopefully it kicks them back into gear.
Yes,
they are still in 3rd place.
Oh, really?
With those 3 losses in a row. Still in 3rd place.
Demira Uage, really?
Yeah.
That's
Come on.
such good news.
Just because you're wearing the Canadian tuxedo doesn't mean you come on now. All
I
right.
don't. 3등이요. That's
Yeah. So they are back in action for an early start today. If the weather holds up, it is kind of off and on.
I know.
Right now, it sprinkles, it's not, but it probably won't go ahead if the weather is where it says it's
But
going
it's
to be.
at Sagitt, so we're hoping that it goes ahead.
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
It's a home game.
2 p.m. start against SSG at Sagitt today. And then back to the regular times tomorrow will be a 6:30 start against SSG. And then Thursday is the off day this week because of Children's Day. They played 9 games in a row, which is kind of unheard of for the KBO.
Yes. All right, let's move on. What are we going to talk about? Basketball or hockey?
We'll get a little bit of both.
Okay.
Now, everyone knows I'm much more interested in hockey than I am
know.
into basketball.
Right.
But, the basketball's into the second round. So the Eastern and Western Conference semifinals, the Cavaliers are down 1 game to... Sorry, the Pacers are up 1-0. The Cavaliers down 1 game to whatever you want to say. The Pacers won game 1 in Cleveland. A bit of a surprise win, if you will, because a lot of people have, Cleveland coming out on top in the East. But the Pacers are like, listen, we're not going to get walked all over. All right. The other matchup there is the Boston Celtics against the New York Knicks, which gets underway this morning.
Yes.
In the West, we have Oklahoma City taking on the Denver Nuggets. Again, gets underway this morning. And then tomorrow, the Minnesota Timberwolves against the Golden State Warriors.
Yes.
A lot of people are saying that the series to watch there would be Oklahoma against Denver. I don't want to say some big names, but maybe Leslie would probably enjoy that one as well. All right.
Yes. So
Over 2.
Lakers are out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody cares.
No, I got messages. People do care. Vasana cares.
I got receipts. She's bringing receipts, people. All right.
Yes.
In the Stanley Cup playoffs, it was an absolutely amazing end to the first round of the playoffs. The Winnipeg Jets and the St. Louis Blues finished it yesterday. I think it was with 2 minutes left. St. Louis was up 3-1 as Game 7. The Jets scored 2 goals. They tied it up with under 2 seconds left
Yes.
and won it in double overtime. So the Jets will face the Dallas Stars. Vegas Golden Knights against Edmonton Oilers. I'll probably be cheering for the Oilers in that one. Capitals versus the Hurricanes and the Leafs against the Panthers. That gets underway in just maybe an hour and a bit. So if you're looking for something to tune into, you might be able to find it somewhere on Korean TV.
Yes.
But before we move away from hockey, we have
Yes.
to get to a clip. This is from NHL.com. It's a bit of a mashup from a few different no-tubes, so we'll try to get a few of them in after we listen to it. Now, this is from the first round action between the Edmonton Oilers and the LA Kings. And the LA Kings brought out a very special team to not sing, but perform the Star Spangled Banner for the beginning of the playoffs. We'll get to this. This is a Korean-American seniors harmonica team performing the Star Spangled Banner.
Here it is.
Perform the national anthem of the United States of America. Once again, backed by popular demand, please sing along with the harmonica class from the Koreatown Senior and Community Center.
And so I hear that they were so popular, they were asked back twice.
Yeah, well, I think that the reason that was is not because they were so popular.
They're so cute, though.
They're so cute, but it was because LA won the first game.
Yeah.
And then the second game. So it was like, we have to bring them back.
Like good luck,
exactly.
charm.
That's exactly what went on there.
Right,
but it was pretty awesome to
Yes.
see. And I love the she Jack. And then they went
so
into it. It was
cute.
really, really cute. Yeah,
Love
so
them, yes.
I'm pretty sure people enjoyed that.
Indeed. So before we wrap up,
One last thing.
Yes, of course.
One last thing here. Bayern Munich clinched their 34th Bundesliga. Not their Bundesliga, 33rd Bundesliga, but 34th title overall in the team's history. But this makes Kim Min-jae the first South Korean to win the trophy, which is pretty amazing there. And you think of players who played in the Bundesliga, like, Son Heung-min also played, and also Cha Bong-gun as well.
Right.
They never won it.
Exactly.
So, hats off to him and their team. And it was also pretty amazing to see Harry Kane get his hands on his trophy. And him and Eric Dyer. They both left Spurs to get a trophy. Well, there you go. All right.
We're just going to leave it on that because there is nothing good that can come out of what I want to say really next. So,
also, very successful live golf event up in Incheon on the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So it looks like
it
went very well.
Yes.
Hopefully they're back.
Yes.
Would be good.
All right. Well, thank you for all the sports news. And of course, we'll check in with you next week. Wave Sports with Andrew. We have much more coming up in hour number 2. So we're going to end it with this one. This is by IU called Blooming. Enjoy. I'll be back at 8.
뭐해라는 두 글자에 네가 보고 싶어 날 속맘을 담아 이모티콘 하나하나 속에 달라지는 내 미묘한 심리를 알까 많이 바쁘지 않아 Nothing 나나 잠들어 있지 않아 Insomnia 냐냐 지금 다른 사람과 함께이지 않아 나도 너를 생각 중 우리의 네모가는 봄 어디 손가락으로 장미꽃을 피워 향기에 취하고 난 사우 오직 둘만의 비밀의 정원 흥미로운 이 작품의 지은이 That's me 어쩜 이 관계의 클라이맥스 이 막으로 넘어가게 지금이 그 타이밍 같은 마음인 걸 알아 Real la 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 나를 고르지 마라 Reply la 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 조금 장난스러운 나의 은유에 네 발성이 궁금해 우리의 second green and blue 엄지 손가락으로 날 풍선을 띄워 금세 터질 것 같아 루비가 빠져 어지러워 보낼게 사랑인 것 같아 백만 송이 장미꽃을 나랑 피워볼래 꽃잎에 색은 우리만 가는 대로 칠해 시들 때도 예쁘게 우리의 네모가는 품 엄지 손가락으로 장미꽃을 피워 향기에 취할 것 같아 둘만의 비밀의 정원
Hi, this is Catherine. Can you hear me, Professor?
And explore the largest mountain fortress in Korea. As well as all this, there are so many tourist attractions, beautiful exhibitions, vibrant culture, convenient facilities, and delicious foods unique to Busan. With all the beauty and charm of the amazing city of Busan, you'll find yourself right at home in this ever-changing tourism paradise. So stay with us a while. Busan, your #1 tourist destination. Your home, away from home. This campaign is brought to you by BEFM, Busan 영어방송.
Did you know that an average person in South Korea uses more than 10 kilograms of disposable products a year? While convenient, it does weigh heavily on the environment as they take up to 500 years to break down. Here is how we can cut down on disposable products. First, use tumblers and mugs instead of plastic or paper cups. When you go grocery shopping, bring a reusable bag so you won't have to ask for a plastic one. At home, instead of reaching for single-use paper towels or wet wipes, use rags and towels. These small steps for the environment can have a big impact on planet Earth. This campaign was brought to you by BEFM Busan 영어방송.
김밥가게 박 사장님도 문구점 김 사장님도 우리 부산의 경제를 움직이는 사람들. 우리 동네 작은 가게로 향하는 발걸음이 우리 부산의 경제를 키워가는 한 걸음입니다. 부산 방송광고 발전 협의회.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
It's now 8 o'clock. This is the second hour of Morning Wave in Busan. This is Spotlight News. PPP sees rift with Kim Mun-soo over candidacy merger with Han Deok-soo. People Power Party, or PPP, presidential candidate Kim Mun-soo represented his demands for the rules of merging his candidacy with former Prime Minister Han Deok-soo for a unified conservative candidate, as the party urged him for an expedited decision. The party, during a general conference of its lawmakers last night, called for a candidate merger and decided to hold an emergency leadership meeting. Kim and the PPP have clashed over the extent of power the presidential candidate has over party affairs. Han Deok-soo, in the meantime, told reporters that he proposed a meeting with Kim to discuss candidate unification yesterday, but said he did not receive a definite answer. DP urges court to postpone Lee Jae-myung's trial until after a presidential election. The opposition Democratic Party, or DP, yesterday called on the Seoul High Court to push back the remanded trial of its presidential candidate Lee Jae-myung until after the June 3rd election, as it vowed to use all of its powers to prevent what it called a judiciary coup. The DP's call comes as Lee could lose his eligibility to run for office for 5 years if he receives a finalized sentence of a fine of 1 million won or more for violating the election law. The party has been reviewing whether to seek impeachment of Supreme Court Chief Justice Cho Hee-jae after the top court sent back the not guilty verdict back to the High Court for a remanded trial, with the first session scheduled for May 15th. Government says med schools to finalize expulsion of medical students. Acting President and Education Minister Lee Joo-ho said all medical schools will finalize which students will repeat a year or will be expelled by next Wednesday. Lee issued the statement to medical students in order to dispel rumors among students that it's impossible for schools to carry out mass class repetition or expulsion of students. He reaffirmed that there will be no additional flexibility measures and that the government will provide support and protection to those who have returned to class. Construction production dips by most in over 26 years. South Korea's production in the construction sector declined by 20.7% in the first quarter of this year, the most in more than 26 years amid industry slumps and political uncertainty. Statistics Korea said that the figures marked the steepest fall since the third quarter of 1998, when the corresponding data dipped 24.2%. It also represented the fourth consecutive quarterly decline. Slumps in the construction industry also dented households' income, as those whose main breadwinners worked in this sector saw a limited income growth of 1.4% in the fourth quarter of last year. Israel's Security Cabinet approves plan to capture Gaza. Israel's Security Cabinet has approved a plan to expand its military offensive against Hamas, which includes the capture of Gaza and the holding of its territory to destroy Hamas and rescue the remaining hostages. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the cabinet had decided on a forceful operation, adding that Gaza's population of 2.1 million will be moved for their protection while not giving details on how much territory will be used or seized. The cabinet also approved in principle a plan to deliver aid through private companies, which would end a 2-month blockade the UN says has caused severe food shortages. And this was news.
Good morning. Good morning.
굿모닝입니다.
Good morning.
좋은 아침입니다.
Morning wave in Busan.
Morning wave in Busan.
Morning wave in Busan. Major news, local buzz, and expert takes. It's all here on Morning Wave in Busan. Brighten up your morning commute with Morning Wave in Busan. Morning Wave in Busan.
Oh, did you guys hear that? Ururuk? I was just checking out our Kakao Talk page, and Leslie and Benny sending in photos. I'm like salivating. Oh dear, yeah, we're.
I'm getting off camera.
She's like, "Where's the food?"
Can we throw them up on our
she's
YouTube?
working on it right
Cool.
now. So we're gonna
Or
jump
maybe
into our
not
first
cool.
story. I know, because it's like 8:05 and I'm extremely hungry already. Oh, okay, here we go. A court case where a man was found guilty of theft for eating a snack.
Eating a snack
Out of the office fridge?
The office fridge. Was it a well, okay. So just before we get to the story,
Okay.
show of hands, who has gotten their snack, lunch, yogurt, who's had their food disappear in the office fridge? Because some people will eat things that are not theirs.
I never put my food, like even this morning, Haley gave me some milk. Don't ask me why. Anyway, so a very nice bottle of milk. And I was kind of like, do you think it'll go bad if I leave it on my desk? And she's like, we have a refrigerator. And I was like, yeah, but
but but it's a holiday, so no one else is in.
that's
So,
true.
yeah.
And plus I might forget it. But but I just normally don't leave food.
Right, because, but this is a little bit of a different case. So 40-year-old cargo truck driver has been found guilty of theft and fined 50,000 won, 5만 won. That's
For
like
eating what?
$45. And this news, I will say the brand once, chocopa이, the chocolate-covered, it's basically like a ding-dong. Right, the Korean version of that out of the office fridge. So this incident happened last January when the defendant, the truck driver, took out one snack plus another one, and they totaled 1,000 won. 1,000 won from the fridge inside the office of a logistics company in Wanjugun County. So the company decided to press charges, and we'll get to the reasons, or at least the opinion, soon. The prosecution, given again the two snacks cost a total of 1,000 won, that's like less than $1.
Right.
They went for a summary judgment, 약식기소, so not going to court, but just kind of slapping him with a minor fine. However, the driver decided to go for a full trial in order to get a not guilty verdict. Well, that backfired because he's been found guilty of theft. So what happened? Well, the driver's argument was that his fellow drivers, his colleagues, said, you can eat the snacks out of the office fridge. So he doesn't understand, when there was permission, why this would be theft. 절도.
I don't get it either, if that's
neither.
what they said.
But an official with the company who's in charge of managing the refrigerator said that employees, which does not include the drivers, they're freelancers. Yep, there's a collective gasp. They have given snacks to drivers, so they've handed them the snacks from the fridge, but they never explicitly gave them permission to actually come in to the office and take food out of the fridge.
Got it. Okay, now I'm getting a clearer picture. Okay, so it does sound like a, kind of like, a they said, he said situation. So, how did the court reach a guilty verdict?
Let's get into the legality of now this person has a criminal record for, again, taking a chocolate snack.
Yes.
Circumstantial evidence. So the judge said that the office space and the driver's waiting area, they're separate. And the drivers are not permitted to enter the office space. And the refrigerator was located at the very end of that office space. So he had to have gone all the way across. And then a security guard with the company testified that he didn't even know there was a fridge in that space. So again, unless you are an office worker within that space, you wouldn't be normally permitted to go in. So therefore, the court took this as evidence that the defendant likely knew that he didn't have the rights or the permission to do what he did. The driver has appealed the case, so this is going to go on. But the comments were generally sympathetic towards the driver, I think, given just the amount that was now stolen.
Yes.
And that the company perhaps went too far in pressing charges. And it seems that it seems unfair that the courts would issue a guilty verdict against this guy, but others pointed to like larger amounts of bribery, embezzlement amongst corporations, and how that seems unfair.
What I don't understand, maybe the story doesn't give us everything, but why not just say, hey, don't eat out of the refrigerator?
Were there multiple warnings before?
Yeah, were there?
I just didn't find that in any of the articles I've read. But yeah, so there seems to be holes in the story.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know about this one.
Yikes.
Right. All right, so on to the next story. The Papal conclave, in Korean known as conclave, the vote to elect the new Pope will later begin, actually today, at the Vatican. But already there's been some campaigning and even some smearing going on.
Right. So the setup is being done today officially. The voting and the actual lock and key tomorrow, the 7th.
Yes.
But I know when you think about electing the Holy See, the literal Holy See, and smear campaigning,
it's
you don't really. But then if you've seen the movie Conclave, we know there's a lot that happens behind the scene. So rumors galore ahead of the papal conclave. Top candidates, by the way, there are no official candidates. It's just an open ballot, but there have been candidates in air quotes that have been reported on by the media are facing rumors and even fake news. So one major contender is Cardinal Pietro Parolin, who's an Italian, and he's the Cardinal Secretary of State, aka the second man in charge in the Vatican. He's been a strong contender. There have been reports that this cardinal had fainted during an earlier general congregation meeting. So health issues from a spike in his blood pressure.
Yes.
And that he had to receive medical intervention. The Vatican actually issued a flat denial saying that
that's not true.
That's not true. However, because again, cardinals are usually, that's the second step before papacy. So they're advanced in their age.
Yes.
So we always see these health-related rumors ahead of the conclave.
And then there were some uglier rumors about another major contender.
Right. So again, this goes back to Cardinal Parolin, but another contender from the Philippines, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. The watchdog group, bishopaccountability.org, they said Tagle and Parolin, they both could not be relied on to protect children because basically, in the case of Cardinal Tagle, he was responsible, according to the group, of the church in the Philippines of remaining in the quote-unquote dark ages. It basically goes to the child abuse allegations that the Catholic Church faced years ago. However, the Philippines Catholic Bishops' Conference defended Cardinal Tagle, which was quite rare for them to issue an official statement, saying that the allegations of misconduct by clergy were with bishops and other religious superiors, that as cardinal, he doesn't hold direct authority over individual dioceses in the Philippines.
I see.
On a lighter note, though, another case, a video of Cardinal Tagle has surfaced singing John Lennon's Imagine. That struck a negative chord with some really conservative Catholic groups because everybody knows that song, Let's Sing It All Together.
Yes.
Imagine There's No Heaven. And that apparently some see as sacrilegious or anti-Christian. But in an interesting way, this has gone viral over social media, and we see younger users, and I'm quoting one of the headlines directly, swooning for this Filipino cardinal.
Yes. So, some people may disagree with the lyrics of that particular song.
It's metaphorical.
I know, but others, they can relate to him. So I don't know. So while we're on the topic of popes, U.S. President Donald Trump has posted an AI-generated image of himself as the Pope.
He has. And this wasn't even on his personal page. It was via the official White House social media
really?
pages accounts. And I believe we have photos ready. So that. So for our radio listeners, we see it's AI generated. And he's in a full Pope's attire with the white off-white hat, the cross, and with him like a solemn face.
Yes.
He's literally sitting on a throne. Well, previously, Trump did joke that he'd like to be Pope. And this incited, of course, criticism from some Catholics, including the New York State Catholic Conference, of this being mockery, saying that, in terms of timing, they just buried one of the most beloved figures in the entire institution, and they're about to enter this solemn conclave, so to not mock them at this point.
I see.
Also, Italian former Prime Minister left-leaning Matteo Renzi said that the image offends believers, insults institutions, and shows that the leader of the right-wing world enjoys, quote, clowning around. The White House, however, responded this wasn't intended to mock anyone, saying that Trump flew to Italy to attend the Pope's funeral and has been a staunch champion for Catholics and religious liberty.
Okay.
So that's interesting.
For our final story, cell phones. Mobile phones in schools seem to be an issue everywhere. And apparently Finland is now taking steps to crack down against this.
Right. So the Finnish parliament passed a bill to heavily restrict the use of phones and other mobile devices, including tablets, during the school day. So to what extent? Students will only be allowed to use them with the teacher's permission for healthcare and or learning purposes.
Yes.
So this is in consideration of the impact of phones and social media on young people, young minds. Which we've had extensive interviews on this, on their self-esteem, on their emotional health, even physical health with eyes, their like the tech neck, the 거북목, and the thumbs and everything. So they are now joining a series of other countries who are following suit. Denmark also said earlier it would ban phones from all schools and saying that the measure was necessary to stop schools from being, get this, colonized, 식민지화, by digital platforms. They feel strongly. France also introduced phone restrictions, and they ban younger children on having phones on social premises, and a digital pause for teenagers up to the age of 15. So again, going back to Finland, their education minister said that the new rules would enable better opportunities and meaningful interaction. Basically, kids will be forced to maybe talk to each other. Yeah, so
try that.
And I do want to end on this note. So the education minister said, school is not just a place for acquiring knowledge. It's where social skills are developed. And with eyes fixed on screens, it becomes harder to interact with others. Adults can get this too.
Absolutely.
This is why they want to give students better opportunities for meaningful interaction during the school day.
Yes. I mean, I'm sure many adults will agree. Even at my youngest, they had a vote. Among all the students, among the parents, and among the teaching staff. So it was 2-1. The parents and the teachers voted no phones.
Of course, that does not surprise me.
Why is that not surprising?
Right.
Students said yes to the phones. Phones are banned.
We do miss a lot of what's going on. So when I was on the plane, I looked outside the window. I think we were flying over the Himalayas, so beautiful snow-capped mountains.
Yes.
Everybody else was on their phone. And I wanted to be like, guys,
look.
Look.
Yes, well, thank you for all the Woggly stories. We'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Haley.
Have a great day.
All right, and now we're going to be showing photos. First up, we have, let's see, Okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh, so this is from, I believe, Leslie. So Leslie, we're talking about...
Everyone.
Oh, everyone. Oh, this is a hodgepodge of... Oh, so we're talking about Ethiopian, Korean, hot pot, and also Benny sending in his photos of what his family usually eats as well. Now that we're thoroughly hungry, gururuk happening right now. Pretty amazing. So we are gonna take a song break because we're so hungry and we need to get our wits about us. Here is Dinosaur by Akmu.
옛날 동네 반자빌라엔 내 가족 오순도순 무슨 잘 살고 있었네.
화장실 문 밑엔 지갑하는 구멍이 매일 밤 뒤척거리시던 아버지 No problem 난 아무것도 몰랐거든 아직도 그때가 생생해 무서울 게 없었던 어리기만은 나를 벌쩍 뛰게 하는 벌쩍 뛰게 하는 벌쩍 뛰게 하는 Dinosaur
어릴 적 내 꿈에 나온 다이너소어 어릴 적 내 꿈에 나온 다이너소어
비명과 함께 깼네. 함께 깼네. 내 가족이 다 같이 따스한 이부자리 두 발 놓고 또 찾지.
엄마는 날 안아줘 내 목 감추는 눈을 먹임 TV 보며 진정하라 하셨지 깜빡깜빡거리네 까만 방이 번쩍거리네 아직도 그 꿈이 생생해 무서울 게 없었던 어리기만한 나를 벌쩍 뛰게 하는 벌쩍 뛰게 하는 벌쩍 뛰게 하는 Dinosaur
어릴 적 내 꿈에 나온 다이너소어 어릴 적 내 꿈에 나온 다이너소어
우리 집 창문을 부수고 내 가족에게 보유하던 널 다시 만나면 그땐 너보다 더 크게 소리 지를래 더 크게 소리 지를래 더 크게 소리 지를래 더 크게 소리 지를래 Dinosaur Dinosaur
어릴 적 내 꿈에 나온 다이너소어 어릴 적 내 꿈에 나온 다이너소어
It's time for a special interview. And, we've been talking a lot about children because obviously yesterday was officially Children's Day. Today is a substitute holiday for Children's Day as well. In Seoul's Gangnam district, you've probably heard about how parents with 4-year-old children lined up outside private education institutes, these hagwons. A very striking image when you think about it, of South Korea's relentless education frenzy. And driven by the dream of sending their children to prestigious universities, some parents begin the race earlier than ever. In today's realities, terms like 초등 의대반, meaning like elementary school, med school prep class, or like 사세고시 or 치세고시, these terms highlight an extreme culture of early academic pressure. So, I think it is high time to shed light on the importance of children's mental health on a day like this in today's society. So we have joining us Jessie Ha, who is a professor of teaching and learning at Montclair State University. Let's say hi first. Hi, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, yes. So as you well know, South Korea is so well known for, some people say strong passion, some people say fervor for education. And, many parents are so deeply invested in their children's academic success from a very young age. So what do you think are some of the possible challenges or downsides that children might face in this type of environment?
Yeah, so I just want to start by saying that, South Korea is very highly regarded. Whenever I talk about it in my circles with different teachers and folks, they're always like, oh, isn't that like one of the best PISA countries in terms of testing for math and English, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, I always have to tell them, look, like there's other issues that we have with this, and oftentimes it's high stress environments. And so, yeah, one of the real downsides of this kind of, societal goal to have a very strong education system is that I think that the children just lose their lives, right? One of the most important things for children is to be able to negotiate their own spaces socially, but also to discover themselves and to find their own identity, things that they enjoy and like to do, and just play, right? We know that the research shows that play is just how people learn, including adults, right? Like we don't think of it that way, but it's one of the most essential ways in which we navigate the world and kind of think about how we learn. Yeah.
That's so true, Professor. And I think we kind of lose sight of that when we start so early, this fervor. And so how can an intense educational environment shape children's emotional or psychological well-being? I mean, both positively, but also negatively.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. There's definitely some pros that I want to mention, even though, part of me, knowing how the system works, I grew up in the Hagwon system. I taught in Daechidong for about 6 years. And so, I really understand the system, and I've seen it really deteriorate some students' mental health. But let's talk about some of the positives first.
Okay.
Intense educational environments, there's nothing inherently wrong with intensity. Right. I think that it's more about how we think about how to do it. But, that aside, I'd say that, generally intense environments, it can build discipline, right? Confidence, some critical thinking skills. It's doing something, right? But the thing to think about is that, but is it the best thing to do? So some of the negative side effects, is very, we see it all the time in the news, and this is in the research, shows that, it can cause high levels of stress for students. Like, there's something called performance-oriented kinds of beliefs about yourself, meaning that a lot of students in these kinds of high-pressure, intense environments tend to believe that their success as a person is only about the outcomes of whether they get the A's, whether they get the high scores, they win the competitions, right? And that can lead to a lot of problems that can persist into adulthood as well. And if you want to talk about other mental health issues, anxiety, depression, a lot of folks who experience this early on, they have a lot of health outcomes that are very negative in the future. And there's research called adverse childhood events.
Yes.
I don't know if you've talked about it on your show yet, but it's Nadine Burke-Harris, and she was the one who kind of popularized this term called ACE, adverse childhood events. And, I'd say having a really intense environment itself doesn't necessitate an adverse event, but oftentimes that's what it becomes, because parents oftentimes will neglect their children to send them to these hagwons all day.
Yes.
Right? That itself can be part of a neglect. And, so there's so much to unpack in this, but obviously we can't do this in this one interview. So,
But thanks for at least scratching the surface so we have a better idea of what you're talking about. So in your view, Professor, how effective is this early intensive education when it comes to supporting a child's long-term growth and success? Because parents around me, they ask me all the time, because my kids are a little bit older. They're like, what did you do? At what age did you start the hagwons? And I was just like, you're asking the wrong person, because my kids didn't start until they asked me, like in middle school. They're like, can you please send me to an English hagwon? But that was it, right? But others, they start like before kindergarten. So do you think that this is, effective?
That's a funny question. Effective. That we'll be able to answer that towards the end. But I'm laughing because I grew up in that system.
Definitely.
I grew up as a kyopo in the United States in New York, and my parents subjected me to kumon and hagwons since I was like 3, because it was babysitting for my older sister. Right, so I was there from a really young age. So I want to say that there are some positives to it, right? Because in the end, if you have I happen to have a hagwon wonjang and assistant who are very caring, right? And so it was good. It was a good relationship builder for sure.
Yes.
And it ended up just being babysitting, right? Because the parents, they're immigrants, they didn't have much time. But if we talk about it in general, especially for students now, obviously it's a different context. I'd say that it's less about the word intense, because I think that if you think about children, they're always learning. Isn't that that's what the human experience is? Aren't we just learning from the beginning, right? That's all we do.
Yes.
Right. And so in that sense, when I say intense, I don't know. Maybe when you say intense, you're meaning more in terms of the kind of parental pressures, right?
Yes.
But in terms of students, they want to learn. My advisor, one of my advisors at Arizona State University when I was doing my PhD, he has this quotable quote. It's not a full quote, but he says something to the effect of that one of the most essential human needs is learning. And children inherently want to learn.
Yes.
I've taught kindergartners and I've taught third graders. That was a much shorter stint because I was mostly high school and middle school. But I did that for a month because my friend had to leave Korea for a month for issues at home. But during that time, I remember recalling teaching these 5 and 6-year-olds in the kindergarten and then teaching these 8-year-olds in third grade.
Yes.
And the 5-6-year-olds are so inquisitive. They're asking me really like metacognitively difficult and existential questions, make me think about like what is life, kind of questions, and that's what they do, right? Because they're curious,
naturally
but
curious.
By the third grade, they come to me. They're like, Sam, what are we gonna do today? They're just disaffected, blasé. By third grade, right? And
That's
so
sad.
It's more about the mode, because for me, I'm a big believer that play-based learning is the best way to go, especially for younger children, but I think just in general for humans, because, we learn by curiosity and inquisitiveness, right? And some schools that have kind of done this, some schools of thoughts, and I'm sure that some of you heard of these terms like Montessori, Reggio Emilia, Waldorf. There's a lot of different terms that are trying different models, but essentially they're all about having children learn by playing, right? And so I guess one of the biggest things for me that's sad was how much our system of education in Korea kills the love of learning. Because when I see students who are in Montessori, they come into a middle school, they're curious. They hit the ground running. Right? And I guess the other big thing in terms of early intense education is that, we don't talk about neurodiversity much in Korea, but there's a lot of neurodiversities people have. These students will developmentally grow at different paces. And, we just throw all students in for 1 year group, but, even the difference between someone who's born in January to someone who's born in September is a huge developmental difference. And so sometimes it's even more inappropriately kind of stressed the amount of how important education is when maybe you're late in the year. So developmentally, if we take Piaget's stages of development, you might actually be a whole stage behind some of the other students, which happens a lot actually between age 5 and 6.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh, great points that you're making, Professor. So when we talk about, if I wish we had more time, we're going to give you more time. Actually, this academic pressure and the influence it has on the parent-child relationship, I think that really it can harm that relationship if there's too much of an emphasis on like getting that A. I remember my mom, like the first time she's like, what is that little thing by that A? And I was like, that's called an A-, mom. And she was like, what is that? Because she was educated in Korea. I was educated in California. It's called an A-, mom. That's my lowest grade. It's in math. I'm not a good math person. She's like, why is that there? So I had to explain, it just means, it's on the lower spectrum of the A. And then I remember I was kind of mad at her. I'm like, why can't she just be happy with an A-? And so what would you say to the pressures on that relationship between the parent and a child because of grades and academic pressure?
Yeah, I think the expectation of success, there's two ways parents can really exert that on their children. One way is to kind of see, it's just, of course you're expected to do well.
Yes.
Because you are worthy, you are amazing, and I know that you can, right? That kind of a sentiment. But I think the kind of direction that you're going with in your experience, and mine too, is that why can't you work harder? You know, that kind of high expectation, right?
Where's the A+?
Exactly.
Right.
And so I want to start off by saying that, high expectations are actually healthy, right? We need to have them for all people, especially for those who are neurodiverse, especially for those who are from marginalized communities. Oftentimes, even in the United States, you see if you go into Title I schools, a lot of teachers have lower expectations. And the research shows is that the parent and the teachers and the adults and the mentors' expectations of young people often is what drives how much they can learn and how much they can believe about themselves. So I'll start with that.
Okay.
But the negative side, right? I would say, I guess I'll talk about from my experience, from what I've seen.
Okay.
So I've taught thousands of students, both in Korea and thousands in the States. And every once in a while, I encounter students who are just so well adjusted.
Yes.
Like they're just great. They just know what to do. They don't have to be told what to do, and they just kind of get it done. They all tend to go to really great schools. And the one common thing that I've always seen, because I was curious. I'm a pattern recognizer, and I was just like, what's going on with this student?
Yes.
And I would notice one time there was one student, I was like, oh my gosh, like the father came to pick her up at 10 p.m. from the hagwon, right? And I saw their interactions of how it was very supportive kind of environment. So, having parents who are really supportive.
Yes.
That's number one.
Okay.
I'd say on top of that is these parents that I've seen give their children a lot of agency. Actually, one student, she went to Columbia. She told me of how her parents would actually just tease her, like, "Well, you can't do this. I thought you're that's a high expectation." But it's kind of they never forced her to do anything. And her decision to study hard and to get a perfect score on the SAT, go to Columbia, was because she wanted to, right? And she was self-motivated, and that's a huge difference. We don't see that oftentimes in Korea quite as much.
True. Well, to wrap up our discussion today, Professor, if you could share, and this is going to be a tough one piece of advice with parents who are listening, by the way, from all around the world. Their parents are working hard to raise, happy, good, responsible kids these days, but sometimes it's challenging. What is the one piece of advice you could give them right now?
That's tough.
I know. I said it was going to be tough.
Yeah. I would say, because we're on the topic of mental and emotional health.
Yes.
And I think that one of the most important things for parents to remember is that academic success doesn't have to come at the cost of social emotional well-being and skill sets. We live in a post-Gen AI world where computers are going to be doing a lot of the technical things for us more and more.
Yes.
So then what's more important for us also kind of for their own, desires in terms of wanting to see their students succeed, these soft skills, these emotional skills, empathy, resilience, grit, integrity, are going to become more important than ever in the society that we're moving into. It's going to look very different. And I guarantee that we haven't focused on this quite as much in Korea.
Yes.
And you think, if I want to tell the parents, I encourage you to really think about, well, how can I build these skill sets in my children? Do I just only send it to hagwon, or do I also, in terms of how can the parent also show these kinds of loving acceptances, right? Still having high expectations while giving agency, asking their children, is this what you want to do? Who do you want to be? And also giving them the opportunities to discover themselves. Yeah, there's so much we could talk about more,
I know.
I'll just leave it at that.
Well, we definitely are so thankful to have you on air, and so many messages coming in from our listeners saying that what an amazing interview. So thank you so much for joining us today, and definitely we would love to have you on again. So thank you for joining us today, Professor.
Of course, anytime.
This was Professor Jessie Ha, and we talked about the mental, emotional well-being of children while having a high level of he said intensity is okay. It's okay to have high expectations, but at the end when we talk about the overall picture, like are we doing okay by our children is a question I want to ask. I'm asking of myself as well. No judging here. So this was our special interview. I'll be back with Bonnie in just a moment. It is time for Bonnie and for her segment. It's called Simply Sustainable. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Oh, so are you enjoying some day, your long weekend?
Yes.
What's left
I
of
wish
it?
there was a little bit more sun, but that's okay. I'm not going to complain.
Okay, good. So, what are we talking about today?
Okay, today we're going to talk about actually one of my biggest pet peeves in life.
Which is?
And that is food waste. So, food waste, obviously, I don't know where this actually came from in me, but I hate wasting food. I think ever since I was really little, my mom used to always tell me I had to finish on my plate, and she'd say anything that I left over was my luck. It's all my poke. And she was like, if you leave it, then you're leaving your luck. So I was like, okay. I always had to.
You're like, I can't leave
I can't leave it. So I don't know if that's where it came from, but it's been sort of like a pet peeve of mine since then that I just always want to not waste any food. But it aligns with trying to be sustainable as well, because did you know that globally about 40% of all of our food is wasted?
That is
this
so
is
much.
Nearly half the food that we grow, that we put so much effort into, actually gets thrown away. Down the drain.
And it's a waste and it's a shame.
Yeah.
Because we have areas of the world, probably even in our backyard, where food is scarce.
Yes.
Right.
And that amount actually is enough to feed more than 1 billion hungry people.
That kind of makes me angry.
Yeah. Right. So if you think about in that terms, it's not, for us, we just think, oh, I'm full, I don't want this. But if you really think about the time and effort and money that went into growing that food, but also the fact that so many people could actually use that food.
Yes.
And that food is actually responsible for about 6 to 8% of our global emissions.
Really?
So actually it's hurting our planet. It's not just like a waste, it's actually doing harm onto our planet.
Wow. Okay.
So I'll go into the reasons why. Because from the get-go, there's so much energy that goes into the production of food from beginning to the end.
Okay.
So the actual growing of the food the agriculture takes about 70% of our global water consumption. So that's a lot of our
70%?
water is going into just growing that food. So for example, it takes to produce one apple, one apple, it takes 125 liters of water. Just one apple.
한 사과 125리터
Yes.
of 물?
Yes.
That's a lot.
A lot, right?
Yes.
And then, this might shock you more, watermelon.
Oh my gosh, it's ginormous.
Yes, watermelon takes 1,175 liters.
I've never even thought about it,
For one
to be
water.
honest. Like how much water it takes to grow this piece of fruit or
because
veggie, right?
If you've ever grown anything in your own house,
Right.
from seed,
that's
you
true.
know how much
You're
water you have to
always
water
watering.
it. Yeah, so if you think about that in a span of a lifetime of one single fruit or vegetable, it's a lot. And then you actually factor in how energy it takes to pick that, to clean it, to package it, and then to get it to you. It adds up to be a lot, right?
Yes.
So that's the production part of it, and we'll go deeper into another episode. But once it gets onto your plate, then let's talk about the food waste.
Okay.
Maybe I don't want to finish my plate, and if you have kids, we're talking about kids a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're not going to be finishing their food.
They're finicky.
So unless the
Picky
mom
eaters.
or dad or whoever is going to eat their leftovers, a lot of that goes to waste. And if
That's
you've ever
true.
worked at a school, after lunchtime, if you look in the garbage can, you will understand
Food wasted.
how much food is wasted, especially with kids, right? So then after that food it gets wasted, put in the garbage can or wherever you put it, most of that food in the world lands in a landfill. And there it creates methane, which is a gas that's 80 times the warming potential of carbon dioxide. So really, really, really harmful for the planet. And if you think about like a trash bag, if you've ever put I mean, most of you probably have food in a trash bag and you let it sit there for a while.
Yes.
If it's closed up, it starts to kind of create a gas.
Right.
It starts to rot and it gets really disgusting and yucky, smells really bad. But that terrible gas is that methane. It's and it's in a bag. It's being contained and it's getting worse and worse and worse. So then that goes out into our atmosphere, in turn creating a lot of global warming.
Right.
So besides the gas, though, when food is put in the landfill, usually big landfills are lined with a plastic lining at the bottom so that the yucky juices don't go into the groundwater. But sometimes there's holes and there's little out like a place in the lining that actually it leaks from. And once it starts to leak, we cannot patch it up. You can't go back into the landfill and patch it. So then once it starts leaking, it can affect that groundwater for decades, centuries to come.
Yes, indeed.
So really harmful for our groundwater as well. Okay, now let's talk about Korea specifically because Korea makes 15,000 tons of food waste per day.
Per day, every day?
15,000 tons.
That's mind-boggling.
1 ton is like a small baby whale. So think 15,000 of those. That's
every
how
day.
much food we waste in one day. Just Korea, just our country alone.
And before I moved to Korea, I'll be honest. Well, I mean, in California, you have the food. I don't even remember.
Garbage disposal?
Yes. I don't even remember what it's called because you press
we
a
haven't
button.
used it in so long.
Right?
Yeah.
And then it grinds everything and then you have a garbage disposal. It's gone.
It's gone.
And then I came to Korea and I'm like, what? You got to take the food where?
Yeah.
It was that was one of the biggest culture shocks, right?
And I will say, I do know some foreigners that come over. It's too much for them to deal with, and I know they just throw it all in the irban sirigi
that's bad.
trash can.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to get used to because it's it's yucky, it's gross, it smells. So it's hard for some people to get used to. So that actually goes into
that's
the
terrible. And then the thing is the reason why I bring it up is there's a point is the whole idea is I've been more conscious about not wasting food.
Yeah.
Because
right?
I want to take less food into that container.
It is motivating. Right. And I will say this is a really great thing about Korea because we are actually at the top of the leaderboard as far as what we do with that food waste. So we have a lot of that food waste, but actually 98% of that gets recycled instead of being put into the landfill. So a lot of different countries have tried to model this and look at Korea as kind of a role model to do the same thing with their food. But there's a lot of complications with it. It's not that easy because even though we have 98% of it trying to get recycled, it's tricky. For example, eggs, onions, chicken, that can all be composted.
Right.
But shells, bones, roots cannot.
Right.
So when people put stuff into that food waste bin and it has maybe those things in it, and some people, they even find disposable cutlery, plastic bags, or even dog poop. They find dog poop in the food waste bin. But when you put that in there, the mechanical system that is used to break down that food to turn it into feed or fertilizer, it messes up the system. And sometimes it could take even a year to fix. So it is, it's great that we recycle it, but the system isn't perfect. And some people are putting things in there that shouldn't be in there, and it's really, really hard to filter it out.
I printed out literally a colored thing and I put it on my refrigerator.
Really?
Because for the longest time I couldn't remember bones and shells, they don't go in that the food thing. They go into the regular, right?
Yes.
And there's the tops of green onions and onions, they also go into the regular and not into the food disposal.
And I've heard big seeds, avocado seeds and
the
things.
hard seeds,
Yeah, so it's hard and it's not a perfect system.
Right.
And actually, ideally, a lot of that food would be turned into livestock feed, but a lot of the farmers are saying that they don't want to use that because sometimes there are things that get through, little pieces of metal or plastic or even toothpicks, and they've even had accounts where some animals have died because of that feed because they don't know exactly what is in it. So it's difficult. I said, the best option here is to reduce the amount of waste because although Korea is doing our part and we're recycling a large portion of it, it's still a lot of it is still getting wasted. So let's talk about the solution part, my favorite part, how we can reduce these food scraps. How can we reduce the food waste? Of course, we can't eat everything on our plate all the time.
Yes.
So this is the inconvenient part that I talk about. Being sustainable sometimes is inconvenient. But you can take your own Tupperware with you. Sometimes if I have a purse or I even keep empty Tupperwares in my car.
How big is your bag? Bonnie 씨 가방 얼만큼 큰지 저 진짜 궁금해요.
Well, the
Is it like a
Tupperwares aren't
tote?
like huge ones because your leftovers aren't usually like a
huge.
Whole,
It's
yeah,
just
so it's like
small.
a small one.
Okay,
you know,
okay,
whatever I can do.
Sure.
Then sometimes I forget, but it's nice if I have it.
You try to do it.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
also really don't like leftover. I love leftovers. I could eat leftovers all the time.
Oh, yeah, me
I'm not
too.
one of those people that are like, oh, I don't.
I
eat
had it once, I'm
leftovers.
done.
Yeah, and I like turning the leftovers into something else. It's like a game. I'll be like, oh, what can I turn this
It's a
into?
challenge.
Yeah. Like my own cooking show. So you could bring a container, but if you don't want to, which I understand this is inconvenient, maybe you don't have a big, huge purse like I do to keep your Tupperware in.
Right.
Try not to order so much.
No, this is
I
true
know
though.
this is actually difficult because
It's
sometimes
true,
I will
though.
see two people in front of them, they'll have 5 or 6 dishes. So,
and you know you're not going to finish it.
yeah. And so in that, if we think about we talked about all the energy that goes into making that food and then all the damage that food waste does. Maybe let's try to limit it to how much we can actually finish.
Okay.
But at home, try to make the appropriate portions.
Oh, yeah.
And if you
This
have
is important.
leftovers, try to, if you're not going to eat it the next day and if you're going to go on vacation or
Right.
something, freeze it.
I freeze it.
You
all
can
the time.
freeze so many things.
Yes.
So, I mean, try even sauces, even soups, freeze it if you're
Yeah,
not
they
going to
freeze
have
well.
it right away. And
Right.
a lot of things freeze very, very well. Mm-hmm. And this is something even before we make the food, try not to overbuy at the grocery store.
This is a challenge.
This is a challenge as well. Make more frequent trips to the grocery store or to the market and buy less.
I'm so guilty of this.
Make it an occasion. I talk about this a lot.
Yes.
But this is a new trending thing that is going on. This is really awesome.
Okay, what is
Have you
it?
heard of 짜투리 채소 recipe?
Like throwing everything in.
Yeah, so this is a thing on the social media sites that people are uploading on what to do with your food scraps or what to do with like the leftovers. And I've seen, for example, they're using the leftover scraps of vegetables and blending them up in a food processor and then putting them into like little ice cube trays and then freezing them.
And?
So then you can use it for a soup base or anytime you're doing stir fry and you just
that's a good
throw
idea.
one of those in.
Okay.
And another one, I love this, using your leftover onion and garlic peels. Okay, so this is what you bake them, wash them, and you bake them, and then you grind them up, and you can make your own garlic onion powder as seasoning for things. Do I have time for one more? This is really, really cool.
Real quick.
Okay, favorite one. Orange peel candy. So your guys' orange peels, lemon peels. You boil them 15 minutes, rinse, strain. Then you boil equal parts sugar and water. Then boil the orange peels, like
Yes.
the little strips of orange peels or lemon peels. And then after 30 minutes, you have like orange gummy worm candy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ooh,
so
that I
try
gotta
it.
try.
So all these things that you don't think about. I mean, look up scrappy cooking and there's so many amazing recipes to do with your food scraps.
Or you can just be like a producer and just 전 전부 볶음밥 했어요. That's the best. Just throw everything into a fried rice. That's a good one too.
So you're helping the planet and you're
Yes.
also helping your refrigerator and your wallet as well, being more economical.
Win.
Yes.
So thank you for another great edition of Simply Sustainable. We'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you. Have a good day.
And to wrap things up as we say goodbye on the last day of this long holiday weekend, a big thanks to our producer, Choyeji. We have our writers, Haley. We have Sue. I just called to say I love you by Stevie Wonder. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.
To celebrate, no chocolate covered candy hearts to give away, no first of spring, no song to sing. In fact, here's just another ordinary day. No April rain, no flowers bloom, no wedding Saturday within the month of June. But what it is something true, made up of these 3 words that I must say to you. I just called to say I love you. I just called to say how much I care. just called to say I love you, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. No summer's high, no warm July, no heart